Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is definitely on something different, rare, and very unique. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Mateba Model 6 Unica Autorevolver, chambered in .357 Magnum. This is a gun which blends aspects of a semi-automatic pistol and a revolver. It was designed by Emilio Ghisoni, who also designed the Chiappa Rhino. In fact, in profile, this thing looks very much like a Chiappa Rhino, and it shares a design characteristic with that revolver in that the barrel lines up with the bottom cylinder, not the top like you normally get on a traditional revolver. The name of this gun in Italy is Se Unica, and I'm probably mispronouncing that, but it's my understanding that Se, which is Italian for six, is also the same word for you're. So the play on words is you're unique, Se Unica. And this gun definitely is very unique because I can't think of any other guns that operate like this particular auto revolver. But before we get into the things that I like and don't like and show you how this gun actually operates, as always, I want to thank the people that make these videos possible. First and foremost is the owner of this really cool and rare gun. His name is Jack. In fact, he's the second person named Jack to provide guns to this channel. So we're going to call him Jack number 2. Thank you so much, Jack number 2. It's amazing to get to shoot your fine firearms. I always want to thank my Patreon supporters as always, because through their monthly donations and support, they help keep the lights on around here. I couldn't do it without them. And if you guys want to join my Patreon, you can do it for as little as $1 a month and get to see all of these videos early. And as always, I want to thank my primary sponsor for every one of these range reports because he provides the ammunition, thus making them financially feasible. His name is Mark, and he is the owner of a great grip company called Brownworks. And if you're a long-time subscriber to me here at the Texas Gun Vault, you've heard me talk about Brownworks, but if you're new, I know it's because you want to see a video on a very rare and unique gun, and you probably love rare and unique guns, and you probably have rare guns like family heirloom 1911s, Beretta 92s, CZ75s, or maybe even a Browning High Power, and you're thinking to yourself, it'd be awesome if I could get a custom set of wood grips for my fine firearm. Well, I have the perfect grip company for you. That is Brownworks. Brownworks is a custom grip company, and I think makes some of the best grips in the world. Mark over there is an artist. He's a craftsman. He makes grips out of exotic woods, laminate woods. He can even apply things like snake skin and alligator skin to the grips, as well as putting on custom logos, custom textures, and finishing them in a wide variety of colors. Anything you can imagine, he can make. Every grip is custom made to order to the customer's specifications. Mark's customer service is outstanding, and I'm going to ask you guys to go check out his website. I'm going to put a link in the comment section below. Please go over there, see what he has to offer. Make sure that you contact him. Tell him what you're looking for because he will hook you up. And when you do contact him, please tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so let's talk about what this really rare and cool revolver is. Once again, this is the Model 6 Unica Autorevolver from Mateba. And this particular variant is called the Defense because of the barrel length, even though we do have a compensator out here. And these were produced between 1997 and 2005. Now, I've told you it blends aspects of a semi-automatic pistol and a revolver. And so what I want to do before we go into the things that I like and don't like is kind of show you a little bit of a demonstration video with some close-ups of how this gun operates, as well as talk about the trigger, because that is definitely something different about this gun than most other revolvers, because it's a double action, single action revolver, but it automatically cocks itself after each shot. So let me adjust the camera. I'm going to show you how this works, talk about the trigger, and then we'll come back to the rest of the range report. So I wanted to give you guys some close-ups of this really cool Mateba revolver, an auto revolver, and show you the mechanics of it and how it works. And as you have already seen, this upper part of the revolver is kind of like a slide on a semi-automatic. I can push back on it, and this is what is going to move back and forth when you shoot it. And as you can see, when I do that, It does rotate the cylinder when it goes back into battery, and if the hammer was down, it cocks the hammer. So this is kind of like a double action, single action pistol, but in revolver form. Very, very fascinating. Something to note is that if you do want to open the cylinder, the hammer has to be down. If it is up and you push down on this ambidextrous latch here, the cylinder will not open. So let's drop that, push down on that. The cylinder will open, hold 6 rounds. And for the trigger test and to show you what the trigger pull looks like, I am going to use some snap caps here. We want to make sure we do not damage this gun in any way. So 6 snap caps. There we go. So this should be now safe to dry fire. Let's close that up, and I'm going to show you the double action pull. And let me tell you, this double action pull is really heavy. I would estimate it at about 15 pounds. I can't measure it. I do have the Lineman trigger pull gauge, but it is so heavy it will not read it. It's kind of long. It's not a very good double action pull in my opinion, but that's not the point of this revolver. You can simply cock the hammer and shoot it single action, and this single action pull is absolutely amazing. And then let's take a look at the reset. And yes, a reset on a revolver, and it's very short, and you are right back at that wall. The single action side of this revolver is absolutely amazing and perfect. I love it. Just this double action pull is really, really heavy. So one of the things I kind of struggled with at the range on this is once you load this revolver, what do? Well, I guess you can shoot it double action first, then the slide will reciprocate, and you're now in single action. You can load it and pull it back for the first shot to be single action, or you can do what I kind of instinctively did, which may not be the best thing, but because I'm so used to pistols, I do it. I close the cylinder and I rack the slide to pull the hammer back. So I guess those are your 3 options to operating this revolver. So as I said, I can't measure the trigger pull on the double action side, but I can on the single action side. So let me go ahead and get the Lineman trigger pull gauge out here, and let's see what this trigger actually measures at. And for this test, I will pull back on the slide each time, just like it would be if it was shot. So let's go ahead and turn this thing on, and let's make sure the average is clear. Looks like we are good. And let's pull this trigger a few times and see what the reading is. And our first pull is 4 pounds, 11.6 ounces. Four pounds, 14.8 ounces. Four pounds, 13.0 ounces. Four pounds, 13.2 ounces. And finally we have 4 pounds, 12.1 ounces, a very consistent trigger pull to give us an average of 4 pounds, 12.9 ounces. And honestly, it feels lighter than that when you shoot this single action. It feels really good. It has a great wall, a very crisp break. It's a very soft shooting firearm, and this trigger is just absolutely outstanding in single action. Double action, it's one of the heaviest I have ever shot. So it really has a big dichotomy between those 2 different methods of operation. So that's a close-up of how this gun works and the information on what the trigger pull is. So let's get back to the rest of this range report. And as you can see, this gun operates like no other firearm out there. It is definitely very fascinating and very, very intriguing. So now let's talk about the things that I like and don't like about this gun before getting it to the range. And as always, I want to talk about the things that I like first. And the first thing I absolutely love about this gun is how innovative and forward-thinking it is. In the world of handguns, of course, we have pistols and we have revolvers and pretty much nothing in between. And you have people that love pistols and love revolvers. But this gun bridges that gap. I can see how a revolver guy would absolutely love this gun, but also a semi-automatic pistol guy would go, that thing is pretty darn cool. So I understand why collectors really, really want one of these in their collection. I'm also a big fan of the compensator that they've put on this. I know when Emilio Ghisoni designed this gun, he wanted to mitigate recoil the very best that he could. And so he did a few things. Add the compensator, align the barrel to the bottom of the cylinder, and of course make this an auto-revolver. And so that reciprocation of the upper is definitely going to dampen the recoil as well. I'm also a big fan of these grips. These look very much like the Chiappa Rhino grips, which I love as well. And I'm more of a semi-automatic pistol guy. And sometimes revolver grips just don't fit my hand, but these are great. They're not too thick, they're not too thin. I think they're beautiful, and they just fit my hand really well. Just holding this thing is very, very comfortable for me. So now let's talk about a few things about this gun that I don't like. And the biggest downside to this gun is the fact that unlike most .357 Magnum revolvers, you can't shoot .38 Special through it. Now there are some ways that you can by replacing the recoil spring. However, it's kind of a big task. There are a couple of videos online that show how to take this gun down and apart, and it's not like a basic field strip. To get to that recoil spring is kind of easy, but then to put the gun back together is kind of hard. So because we have this reciprocation of the upper, it's pretty much recommended you only run .357 Magnum through it. Now, there is a .38 Special recoil spring for it. However, there are no parts being made for this gun, so finding one of those might be even harder than finding the gun itself. Now, if you do happen to put .38 Special in this gun and try to run it, which by the way, we are going to test, it is perfectly safe. It will not harm the gun. It may or may not run the action. However, if you do put the .38 Special spring in this, it is highly inadvisable to run .357 Magnum through it because you might damage the internals of the gun. So for the most part, I think you're pretty much going to want to run .357 Magnum through this at all times. So unlike those other revolvers, you can't run .38 Special through it very easily. I'm also not a fan of the hammer tang. Now, I showed you in the How It Works video, there's a couple of ways that you can fire this. Of course, that first shot can be double action, but you might want to cock the hammer. And there's not really much on that hammer to cock. It's a little bit small. I kind of wish it would be just a little bit longer. Now, the other thing about this gun that I don't like is that if you are counting the rounds, you know you've shot 6 rounds, the hammer is going to be back because the gun automatically cocks it for you, and you're thinking, I'm going to open that cylinder. Well, guess what? You can't. You have to make sure that hammer is down. So you either have to lower it or you need to pull the trigger. I'm not really a big fan of that. I kind of feel like if you're going to have a unique action like this, you should be able to open that cylinder with the hammer back, but alas, you can't. Now, is that going to be a deal breaker? Probably not. You just have to get used to how this gun functions. All right, so now I know why you guys are here. You want to see me shoot this gun and find out, does it actually work as advertised? I can't tell you how excited I actually am to get to shoot this, because everyone that shot one says pretty much the recoil is like shooting a .22, which I cannot imagine that because it's chambered in .357 Magnum. But we're going to find out. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take this thing to the range. As always, when it comes to handguns, I'm going to set the target first at 7 yards. Just see how the gun functions, how it shoots, if I discover anything about the gun that I like or don't like that I didn't discover here. But there is something about this gun that I did discover that I do want to tell you, that this gun does work with speed loaders. And I have one for a Colt Python, and it lined up perfect. So in this first video, I'm going to run 2 cylinders through this of .357 Magnum using the Colt Python speed loaders. So I hope you enjoy this, and I'm really excited to shoot this and actually see what the recoil is like. And all I can say is, wow. Now, this gun really is loud, and it has a big flash to it because of the compensator and being chambered in .357 Magnum. But this thing honestly feels like a 22 in your hand. It's kind of weird because you feel the concussion, but you don't feel it in your hand when you shoot it. It has no recoil. Those 3 things that help mitigate that recoil definitely do work. It is kind of weird to shoot a semi-automatic revolver. It's just one of those things you kind of have to experience to understand. And the grouping seems to be very, very accurate. So far, I'm extremely impressed with this thing, and I understand why people love it so much. All right, so let's now double the distance of this target. I'm going to go for the head on this IDPA silhouette and see if this group continues. So here we go, double the distance, 2 more cylinders. Let's see how I do. All right, and now this gun is starting to shoot a little bit to the right. However, I did discover you can adjust these sights. There's 2 screws, one to hold it in place at the top and one on the side. So I'm just gonna have to adjust these sights. But I think if I own this, had a chance to shoot it a lot more, this thing could be an exceptionally accurate firearm. All right, so the next test I want to do is the hollow point test. Now, normally I do this with semi-automatic firearms to make sure that they feed from the magazine. Now, I really do not expect to have any issues or understand why hollow points wouldn't work in this, but of course I have to test everything, and I'm also kind of using it as an excuse to continue to shoot this revolver more because this is such a unique experience. But here we go. Let's see if hollow points change anything. I don't think they will, and let's just shoot this revolver some more. And as expected, I didn't have any issues whatsoever, and the gun is now a little bit more accurate since I was able to adjust the front sight. All right, so now let's do the next test. I want to see if this gun is going to run 38 special. Now, I don't think it actually will, but I want to do this test because I'm not going to hurt the gun by doing it, but I know people are going to ask. If I didn't do it, people would call me out. So here we go. We're going to try a cylinder of 38 special, see if it has enough power to cycle the action. I have read online that certain loadings of 38 special actually can. I think it's more of the plus P stuff, but I'm going to run standard 38 special. It's just what I have on hand. But let's just see if this thing cycles and see if it's even functional with 38 special. And so as expected, it didn't run. I have heard online that some people say if you have hand loads of 38 special plus P plus, you can get it to run. Well, I don't have access to that. I just had regular 38 special and it doesn't run. So I just wanted to be as thorough as I possibly could in this review, because if I didn't document that, some people were going to say I wasn't thorough, and maybe they have an anecdotal story about their buddy that owns one and it runs perfectly fine. But that was my personal experience with it. All right, so the last test I want to do is the shoot against a barrier or bench rest test. I'm going to set the target as far as I can at this indoor range. Now the lighting at this range is kind of low. I can't always see where the rounds are impacting on the target, but I am going to set the sights right on the center of the target, shoot some more rounds through it, and just see what the grouping is and see if this is a viable target revolver for me at a further distance. And it looks like my windage is okay, but my elevation now is really low. And there does not seem to be any adjustments on the rear sight to adjust for elevation. So we just have this screw which holds on the rear sight, but there are no adjustments for it. So that's just something I would have to adjust for if I own this revolver and shot it at further distances. But being that it's called the Defense, it is designed for personal protection, probably closer up engagements, which the gun at those shorter distances seems to be very accurate for me. But overall, the gun is a lot of fun to shoot. So what are my final thoughts on the Mateba Model 6 Unica Autorevolver in .357 Magnum? Well, this thing is definitely a unicorn gun. It is really fascinating, very mechanically interesting, very different, and it's really fun to shoot because it doesn't feel like you would expect it to. Extremely low recoil, and it seems like the build of this gun is exceptionally high quality. You don't see any machine marks. Everything is put together and finished really well. It's just a very, very well-built firearm. Now, because this gun is so rare and not something that you can just go down to your gun store and buy, I want to give this gun 2 ratings. One from the cool historical collectability standpoint, and the other one from the practical standpoint of if you actually own this gun and you took it to the range or used it for self-defense, is it a viable option? So when it comes to the collectability of this firearm, it is easily 5 out of 5 stars. This thing is amazing. It is cool. It is fascinating. It is well built. It's just simply awesome. It's like nothing else. But from a practical standpoint, is this a viable carry gun or a self-defense gun? I actually think it is. You would definitely have to train with it though, because the manual of arms is so different than a revolver and a semi-automatic pistol. But from that standpoint, I would give this gun 4 out of 5 stars. Still a very high rating, but I do think it has a few detractions from it. From the way that the gun operates to how slow it would be to reload if you needed to shoot it really fast. And also the double action trigger in this I think is really heavy, and I think if you were going to carry it, you are going to carry it with the hammer down for your first shot to be double action. That's kind of like the safety. But 4 out of 5 stars from a practical standpoint and 5 out of 5 stars from a collectability standpoint. So what do you guys think? Do you find this to be as fascinating and cool as I do? Have you ever had the opportunity to handle one or shoot one? And if so, what were your experiences like? Did they mirror mine? I'm really excited to get to shoot the .44 Magnum version of this gun next. So that should be really interesting, and I'll try to take what I learned from this particular gun into that range report. So what do you guys think? Is this just a cool gun or what? I would love to know your thoughts in the comment section below. So, as always, thanks for watching.